If you didn't know, Voiceflow just released one of the biggest updates, the Agent Snap, which allows you to build AI agent faster and easier than ever before. Let's head straight into it and actually see what it can do. Okay, so we are in the Voiceflow interface at the moment, and if you have been using Voiceflow for the past 2 days, you would notice that there is a new Agent Snap here in the canvas here. So if I literally just drag the agent and put it into the canvas, you'll notice that, well, there's a bunch of options that you can do. You can create your new agent, or you can search a community template. Now, if you're completely new to this, I would highly recommend you to start looking at some of the community template. Well, they said community, but right now, these are all written by the official Voiceflow platform. So they're really, really good. So as you can see, they have different use cases. You have conversational agents, you have book appointments, you have customer feedback, e-commerce, hotel front desk, etc. Now, if I literally just pick a random one, let's start with the basic one, right? If I just literally click on basic conversational agent, it will automatically import the prompt into the agent. Now, let me just delete it because I already have one. Now, if I go to the basic conversational agent, if you click on this little edit prompt button, you will see that it's actually very similar to the prompt step in the sense that you will need to provide a prompt to the agent. But it's slightly different in the sense that rather than having a system and a user prompt like you are familiar with the prompt steps, the agent step actually just have one big instruction window. Now, this is very important because unlike a system and user prompt where you're literally just instructing the LLM to perform a very specific task, this is actually really general. So you actually need to provide like a lot more information than you would normally in like a normal prompt. So even this, I know this is like a basic conversational agent. Even this is like a simplified prompt. Like in reality, and of course it depends on your actual use case. In reality, it's often much longer and much more detailed, but the basics are still there. So you can see you still have the role prompt, right? You are a conversational AI assistant that answers user questions accurately and efficiently. You're friendly but to the point, and you may ask brief follow-up questions only if necessary to clarify fake or incomplete queries. Now, how is this different to the prompt stuff? Is that you actually have its own behavior guidelines. Think of it like the context inside a prompt. So this is how you would want the agent to behave. Because one thing that the agent is actually different to the prompt step is that you actually need to kind of tell how it's going to behave, and you need to give more example interactions. As you can see here, you have behavior guidelines basically defining the agent's personality. You also have the workflow, which is basically a sense of what's going to happen. So user asks a question. If it's clear, answer directly. If it's unclear, ask a quick clarifying question and end the interaction naturally. So normally you will need to code it up. Not code it up, but you need to construct a linear logical path within Voiceflow. But with the agent snap, that actually replaces the entire logical workflow. The whole point of an AI agent, if you didn't know, is to allow autonomous decision-making of what to actually do without the explicit logical structure or logical flow designed by the user. So you still need to actually tell the LLM what to do, like giving it a very general framework, but you don't actually need to define a very specific logical sequence to Voiceflow, if that makes sense. And you also have example interactions, right? So this is basically how you would normally have in a traditional prompt step. You will have, QA, question, answer pair, right? You will provide examples of question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. Well, but in this case, it will be like an example interaction. So if the user say this, the agent should say this, and then the user say this, and then the agent say this, right? Now, this looks like a Q&A because this is a Q&A agent. But in a more general case, as we will look into later down the line, I will show you in literally 1 second, you will actually need to have an entire example conversational flow. So as opposed to in a normal prompt set where you just have a QA pairs, question answer pairs, here you would need to provide an entire example conversational flow to the agent, right? Because again, the agent will take in these examples and actually take that as a reference and actually produce like similar response to the user given like a user's questions, right? So this is kind of an example of a very basic prompt to the agent. In reality, you would need to make it, again, probably much more longer and much more detailed depending on your use cases, right? So if I literally just, let me just actually test it out for you guys. If I literally just have to start here and I connect this node here, and if I just say test your agent, now you can see that this is a little bit dodgy, right? Like it's like weather like today agent is a little bit inconsistent. It's actually not what we want. Now the reason why it's because we're using GPT-4 Mini. One thing that I've noticed is that GPT-4o is much better than GPT-4 Mini in AI agents specifically, because normally in your prompt step, at least with me, I would try to use 4o Mini if I can, right? I would just give a really detailed prompt, and usually it would do the trick. But in the agent step, I found that 4o Mini doesn't really adapt to the agent step that well at the moment, because it doesn't really understand the big instructions that well compared to GPT-4o. So I would actually choose GPT-4o for now. So if I go back and if I just literally test my agent, how can I help you today, right? See, this is much better. Before with GPT-4o Mini, it's literally giving me the example conversations as opposed to actually being the agent, right? So if I just say, what's the biggest city in the world? A population is Tokyo, yep, which is correct. So yeah, this is a very simple Q&A chatbot. So let me actually go to some more advanced examples. Now, this is a support agent. As you can see, this is, again, slightly harder than what we had, right? Slightly more advanced. Now, one thing I want you to notice is that there's a path option. So as you can read there, right? So path is a special type of function that actually tells the agent when to exit the agent and continue from a specific port. So what it actually does, in a very simple word, is that you can actually add paths and you can name the paths, let's say, to confirm an order, right? Now, normally, you would just, in a normal Voiceflow block, right, you will actually have these different if conditions, right? So if X happens, then do this. If Y happens, then do this. It's very strict logic flow. But in here, you can actually see that these paths, while it's still following a logic flow, the path variable itself actually runs on the LLM. So you need to provide a LLM description of when to actually trigger this path. So for example, if I go to, I might have deleted that, but that's all right. Return order, right? So trigger this when the customer would like to return an order, right? So this actually reminds me a lot of intents, right? If you're aware, in Voiceflow, there's something called intents where you can capture using right now, I don't want to confuse you guys too much, but right now they're changing from something called natural language understanding to a RAG understanding of intent. But normally how intent would work is that there's an LLM that's actually kind of classifying what the user actually wants to do. So in a sense, the paths in the AI agent step is actually really similar to a built-in intent without needing you to actually hard code the intent itself by providing an LLM description. Now, Normally, I know I just write down one sentence. Normally, you would want a much more detailed LLM description to make sure that it's actually going to the right path without minimizing. Basically, you try to minimize the error of going to the wrong paths, right? So, which I will show you in a bit in the demo. And the required variables here is that you can basically say that in order to go to this path, I would require a certain variable to pass. So let's say that in order to do the return order, I will require the variable called order ID, right? Now, of course, the LLM doesn't know what the order ID is. So you need to, again, write an LLM description of what the order ID is. The unique order ID, the unique 6-digit order ID that was given to the customer when they bought the item, right? So what it does is basically, again, let the LLM know that before actually going to the return order paths, that it will require the user to enter their unique 6-digit order ID as a reference number before actually going from this support agent path to the next block, right? So in this case, I'm just using a message block. Sure, just give me a minute to answer your questions, but in reality, of course, you would need this would normally be either another agent step, which I'm going to show you in a bit, or it can be a function that actually does something. Like, for example, it can actually check the customer's order ID against a database, etc. However you like to do it, right? But it's good to know that it basically allows you to do paths. So it allows you to have some sort of logical flow within the agent step, right? And another thing I do want to introduce to you guys is the function step. Now, again, as you can see, this is a much longer prompt, but still, this is a template from Voiceflow. And if you notice, if you scroll down here, you say optimizing for voice. If the platform below is Twilio or web voice, then follow the instructions to optimize for voice. One thing I do want to mention quickly is that this agent step, if you've been using Vappy, if you're using this as voice AI, this is actually really similar to Vappy in a sense. Of course, it's going to be slightly different, but it really feels like Vappy, because in Vappy, if you remember, you give it one big prompt of how it's going to behave, what function that it should run, and how it should behave, like what personality it should have, right? And what tone of voice it should have. These actually reminds me so much about like the Vappy prompt. So just a sign. So if you've been using Vappy, you probably know what I'm talking about. So this is kind of similar now in the agent step, how you would prompt Vappy. If you haven't been using Vappy, don't worry too much about it. It's not that important, but I just want to point it out. Now, I said something about functions, right? You can, of course, in the prompt say, run this function, which I'm going to show you in my demo. So run get current date function, right? For example. Now, the AI will pick that up and it will actually run the current date function. Now, the current date function, as you can see here, is the function to get the current date time. So if you click here, this is actually how you would normally write function within Voiceflow, right? Using JavaScript. And this function specifically is getting the current date time. And again, it would require input variables and what are the output variables that it will output from the functions, right? So again, this is actually exactly how you would do functions within Voiceflow, but now it is actually embedded within the agent step. So the agent will know when to execute this specific function without you controlling it. So like instead of within Voiceflow, you have multiple blocks and you have this logical flow, this linear logical flow of, oh, do this, when this happened, run this function, after you run this function, then use the variables to do this and X, Y, Z. You don't need to do this anymore. You can just literally add the functions within the agent step, prompt it in the instructions within the agent step to say, run this function as a general guideline. When this happens, it will automatically run the function. The LLM will automatically run the function, right? So this actually reduces the amount of nodes, the amount of steps, or the amount of blocks that you actually need to create in your workflow, right? Because the agent will pick it up when to run these functions, right? So hopefully that helps that you have these options to run these functions. And one thing I do want to mention is that it also allows you to have access to knowledge base. So rather than using the KB search, so I want to mention to you quickly, this is actually quite important because traditionally, I literally have that in my notes as well. So normally within Voiceflow, if you're doing RAG or knowledge base query, you will actually require a linear workflow, right? So you will have your greetings, blah, 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 and then you will basically capture the user's reply to last utterance, and you do some question pre-processing to make sure it's ready to do the KB search. Then you will have a KB search step, right, to access the knowledge base, and you would actually use a prompt step to set a answer to your questions, and you'll give out the answers, and you can do some processing afterwards, basically saying if the answers actually answers the question, then you're good to go. If the answers actually doesn't answer the user's question, then you can do prompt chaining, right? You can have another prompt step, right? You can have another prompt step here if it doesn't actually answer your question, right? I'm not going to show this here, but you can see that it can be it's quite standard template, but like you can see how how much space it's going to take within the canvas, how many steps you need to do, right? But within the agent step now, because it has access to the knowledge base, you can actually provide a description when to actually tell the agent to actually access the knowledge base. Obviously, it's a trigger the knowledge base when you don't know the answers to questions, but you can also prompt something like do not use general knowledge, depending on your use case, right? Etc. Right. So it depends on the use case. You can let the LLM know when to actually do a KB search step, right? So hopefully that helps. But all in all, I hope you guys can actually appreciate what's going on is that it is actually just a LLM with a really long instruction, with a built-in function, with a built-in intent and a condition builder based on the intent, and a built-in knowledge base search, KB search steps. So instead of having to do all these individual logical steps with that many blocks, you have now one big block that actually does all of these things autonomously. So that is the agentic framework that Voiceflow has been building, essentially. Now, what I've gone ahead to build is actually a demo of a travel planning agent. So the power of using these AI agents is that you can actually chain these AI agents together to form an AI agent network. So the most common case is that you have some sort of supervisor agent that's actually supervise the sub agents, as you can see, using the path or the route functions. It can go to each sub-specialist agent depending on the use case, right? So let me actually just quickly run this demo so you guys get an idea what it does. So if I just connect it here and I click test your agent. Welcome to Travel Ease. How can I assist you with your travel plans today? I want to travel to Berlin, let's say. Is you Berlin? Can you let me know if you're looking to book a flight, accommodation, or both? Additionally, do you have any travel dates in mind? Yeah, so I'm looking for a flight. Flight booking agent who can help us to find a trip Berlin. Can you share your travel dates, departure city, and number? This will help us find the most suitable flight for you. Yes. My travel date. I'm planning to go on 25th of March. We'll be there for 2 weeks. I'm traveling by myself. Thank you for sharing your travel dates. Can you also let me know your departure city or airport and your preferred travel class? Economy, premium economy, business, or first class? Right. So let's say I would like to travel by economy and I am going from London Heathrow. Let me confirm, you're traveling from Heathrow to Berlin on 25th of March, staying for 2 weeks, traveling alone, and prefer economy class. Is that correct? Yep, that's correct. Now, it's actually finding some flight options for me. Now, I'll explain to you how it's going to work in the backend, but essentially it's a function calling. So it has found the best flights, which is the British Airways departing at 10 a.m., arriving at 12:45 p.m. direct flight, or the Lufthansa. I can't pronounce it. I'm sorry if I butchered the pronunciation. Let's just take with the British Airways. Let's go with option 1. Great choice. Could you please provide your full name and the email address? So, Adjan, my email address is ellieleechanster@gmail.com. So the process, you receive a confirmation email shortly. Would you like a system of your accommodation for your trip? Yeah, sure. I need to book a hotel anyway. To accommodation booking service, they will assist you in finding the best lodging options for your trip to Perfect. You provide your check-in, check-out dates for your stay in Berlin. Let's say 25th of March, staying for 2 weeks. Have a preferred type of lodging, such as hotel. So it's just me, and I prefer a hotel that's near the city center and, well, not too far. Let's go with that's near the city center, so I can conveniently visit all the famous places. Near Berlin city center for convenient access to famous attractions. They have a budget range per night. Also, they must have such as Wi-Fi. Okay, so yeah, I want Wi-Fi and breakfast and I'm thinking less than $200 per night. Gotcha. Now, yeah, some great options for me. Like again, I'll explain to you what's actually happening within the backend. So you have the hotel, Grand Central, different hotels, right? And then offer me 3 different hotels. I don't know any of those. So if you're from Germany, let me know if they're good. I'm just picking a random one here. I'm going with option 2. This is the cheapest. Confirmed. Let me know if you need assistance with transportation arrangement. Now I'm good. Right, your hotel booking is all set. If you need further assistance, have a fantastic trip to trip. Thank you. Right, that's pretty much it. Now, if I go back to a spreadsheet, so you should have seen that it's just been refreshed. So you see my name, my email, departure from the airport from London Heathrow to Berlin, my departure date time. This is obviously this is actually in the in a weird format, but it should be in datetime format. And then you've got the airline, you've got the number of passengers, and the number of bags is 0 because I set 0. And then you've got the hotel, check-in day and check-out day. Again, the check-in date time format, I can just change it back to the normal daytime, like the ISO format. So like this, right? But it's just a formatting issue. We can just change it back later on. But again, this is just a demo essentially of a traveling agency that's able to plan for a customer's travel plan. So like you can have basically a person traveling to another country, and it will give them it will plan the search for the best flights for them and search for the best hotels for the use cases in real time, and also log all this information in a database, right? So what's actually happening within the backend, let me actually just explore this, is that you have a supervisor agent. And the supervisor agent, you have different responsibilities and you give it some scope limitations. And you basically, all it does is basically should letting the agents know, okay, should I route to the flight search agent or should they route for the accommodation agent, right? So the way that you do this is you actually give it a much better description. You give it some sort of description. You give it a usage when customers express intent to inquire about or book flights, and you actually give inputs, right? The input variables and the output variables, and you give it keywords where when the customers mention these keywords, then you should trigger this route into the flight search agent. Same otherwise to the accommodation agent, right? So you can see the supervisor agent is more like a controller in a sense. It will also have different edge cases handling and conversation examples, etc. That when it should activate which specialization is controlling the conversational flow. It's like an overlord controller, if that makes sense. And you will have these sub agents. So the flight search agent is, again, of course, is to give the users advice on the best available flights from depending on the traveling plan of the user, right? And it actually has two built-in functions. The one is actually a search flight function in real time. So trigger this when you've collected needed information and search for the best flight for customers. These are the variables that are required to actually process, because what it does is actually using a API, so a webhook, into a make automation that actually goes in the background. So it requires these input variables in order to proceed, which is the information that you need in order to book for a flight. So once this is triggered, once this function is triggered, it will actually go into a background make automation where it actually does a Google search within the Google search flights. And then using a GPT module to actually summarize the best flight options based on the Google search and return all this information back into the agents tab as the output variables of the flight results. And you actually use within the agent, it will actually output the best flight information based on the output from these functions, right? And the same thing with flight confirmation. So what it does is essentially once the user confirmed the flight information, then it will save all the information into a spreadsheet from here, essentially. So again, you have two paths. Is that once the user actually finish with this flight search agent, you can either return to the supervisor if the user doesn't want to book an accommodation, or once it's finished booking for the flight information, it can go back to the accommodation agent if the user do wish to book for a hotel or accommodation, right? So as you can see here, you have like conversation examples, these are conversation examples of what it should look like. And I use the square bracket search flight function, flight confirmation function. So this is actually used. I find that actually to be useful, letting the LLM know that you will want to run these two specific functions, right, in a capital letter and square bracket to avoid, so that the LLM knows it should be running the function as opposed to just a normal text, right? You have error handling. I've added in error handling, gently prompt for missing details, right? Which is why, like, if you realize in the demo that when I type in not all the information needed, not all the input variables needed. It will actually prompt me to actually um, fill in the required variables before proceeding to actually activating the function, right? So no flights available for requested dates, right? So etc. So again, I would love to test out for voice actually. So I would because I think this is good for text, but this is even better for voice AI because if you didn't know, um, for voice AI, you will actually need to right now before this agent step, you would need to provide a big again conversational prompt, right, for the voice AI. And then based on how the AI would respond, you would then need to construct different if conditionals. So if the basically sorry, if the AI actually say this specific phrase, then do this. Else, if the AI do respond differently, then do this, right? So you have a bunch of different if conditionals uh, built on the voice AI to actually control its flow of conversation. But now, with this agent step, you can just plug it all in into this big instruction prompt, similar again to VAPI, and it'll run these functions based on specific guidelines that it gives you in the LLM, right? So it makes building these voice agents so much easier, and like you need to use way less complex workflows, at least to get started with, right? I'm still in the process of testing it whether it's actually better to actually use a much more stricter logic flow as opposed to writing this big instruction prompt with an agent. But it's a good starting point for a prototype or a demo at least. So I think this is actually make building this voice AI much easier. Now the accommodation agent is actually really similar to within the flight search agent, so I'm not going to go too much into it. Um, Again, it's doing the hotel search function in the background where it's going through the Google searches to look for the best hotel and then summarizing the hotel search results that it's given. So yeah, this is the demo for like a travel planning agent. But let me actually just, before I go, actually just test it out with the voice interface. So if I literally just click back here and I change the integration from modality into voice, now it should allow me to run the demo using the voice option. So if I just literally click here,
Hello, welcome to Travelese. How can I assist you with your travel plans today?
I would like to travel to Berlin.
That's wonderful. I'd be happy to help you plan your trip to Berlin. Could you let me know if you're looking to book a flight, accommodation, or both? Additionally, do you have specific travel dates in mind?
Yeah, I'm thinking of going to Berlin from around like 26th of March.
Great. It sounds like you're planning a trip to Berlin starting around March 26th. Are you looking to book flights, accommodations, or both for this trip? Let me know so I can assist you further.
I'm thinking of like booking the flight first, so we'll go from there.
Got it. Could you tell me your departure city or airport? Also, will this be a one-way trip or round trip?
So I'm thinking of actually going from London, and yeah, it's a round trip. So I'll be returning like 2 weeks later.
Thanks for sharing that. So, you're flying from London to Berlin on March 26th and returning about 2 weeks later around April 9th. How many passengers will be traveling? And do you have a preferred cabin class, such as economy, premium economy, business, or first class?
I'm thinking of traveling in economy, and it would just be me.
Thank you. I'll search for economy flights from London to Berlin, departing on March 26th and returning on April 9th for one passenger. Do you have any specific airline preferences or requirements, such as baggage or meal options?
No, because I literally just have one bag, so it's fine.
Perfect. I'll look for economy flights from London to Berlin with one bag included. Let me check the best options for you. One moment, please. I found some flight options for your trip from London to Berlin. Here are the details. Option 1, British Airways, departing London on March 26th at 10 a.m., arriving in Berlin at 12:45 p.m. The return flight is on April 9th at 2:30 p.m., arriving in London at 4:15 p.m. Option 2, Lufthansa, departing London on March 26th at 8:30 a.m., arriving in Berlin at 11:15 a.m. with a short layover. The return flight is on April 9th at 3:00 p.m., arriving in London at 5:45 p.m. Both options include one bag and are in economy class. Let me know which one you prefer or if you'd like to hear more options.
I'll go with the first option, please.
Great choice. I'll confirm your booking for the British Airways flight. Could you please provide your full name and email address for the booking?
Yeah, so the full name is Edwin Chen, and the email is 123@gmail.com.
Your booking for the British Airways flight has been successfully confirmed. Would you like assistance with accommodations for your trip?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
I'll connect you with the accommodation agent to assist with your lodging needs. One moment, please.
Sure.
Could you share the city or location where you'll need accommodations, along with your check-in and check-out dates?
Yeah, so I'll be checking in on 26th of March, be staying for around 2 weeks, and yeah, I don't really have a preference. I mean, any hotel that's like close to the city center, you know what I mean. So like I can actually travel like easily. I think that would be great, honestly.
Got it. So you'll check in on March 26th and stay for about 2 weeks, and you'd prefer a hotel close to the city center for easy travel. How many guests will be staying? And do you have a budget range per night in mind? Also, let me know if there are any must-have amenities, such as Wi-Fi, breakfast, or parking.
I'm happy with. I would love breakfast, and also Wi-Fi is a must, obviously. And I will also be staying. No, I honestly, my budget is around like less than 200 per night, around 200 per night, I would say. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. To summarize, you're looking for a hotel near the city center with breakfast and Wi-Fi included for around $200 per night or less. Could you confirm the city or destination where you'll be staying?
Yeah, so it'll be Berlin, yeah.
Thank you for confirming Berlin as your destination. I'll search for hotels in Berlin near the city center with breakfast and Wi-Fi within your budget of $200 per night. Please hold on for a moment while I find the best options for you. I found some great hotel options in Berlin near the city center with breakfast and Wi-Fi included. Let me know if you'd like me to share the details of these options.
Yeah, sure, of course.
I found some excellent options for your stay in Berlin. Let me share the details with you. 1. Hotel Indigo Berlin, located near Alexanderplatz, offering breakfast and free Wi-Fi, modern design and close to public transport. 2. NH Collection Berlin Mitte, centrally located, includes breakfast, Wi-Fi, and wellness facilities. 3. Motel 1 Berlin Spittelmarkt, budget-friendly, stylish, and includes breakfast and Wi-Fi. Would you like more details about any of these options?
Yeah, I want to know how much it costs.
I'm retrieving the exact prices for these hotels. Please hold on for a moment while I gather the details.
Sure, no problem.
It seems I couldn't retrieve the exact prices at the moment. Let me try again or adjust the search parameters to ensure I provide you with accurate details. Would you like me to refine the search or proceed differently?
It's fine, I'll just go with the first option.
Great choice. Let me confirm your booking at Hotel Indigo Berlin near Alexanderplatz. Could you please share your check-in and check-out dates so I can proceed?
Yeah, sure. So 26th of March and stay for 2 weeks.
Thank you. To confirm, your check-in date is March 26th and your checkout date will be April 9th. I'll proceed with the booking for Hotel Indigo Berlin near Alexanderplatz. Please hold on for a moment. Your booking at Hotel Indigo Berlin near Alexanderplatz from March 26th to April 9th has been successfully confirmed. Do you need assistance with transportation arrangements for your trip?
No.
If so, I can connect you to our
Nah.
transportation agent.
Nah, it's fine. It's fine.
Understood. Thank you for choosing Travelese. Have a wonderful trip and feel free to reach out if you need any assistance in the future. Safe travels.
Right. Cheers. Bye. So as you can see, it actually isn't the best demo in the world, because I want to point out two things. It's one thing, if you remember, it actually doesn't record the information in the end when during the accommodation agent. It doesn't remember where I'm traveling to, and it doesn't remember the price. Now, the reason why that is because within the agent step, it actually doesn't recall the entire memory of the conversation. It's actually using a short window of memory buffers, right? So it actually remembered the last, I think, around 10 conversations in total, like 10 messages. It remembered the last 10 messages, and then every time a new conversation happens, the memory will be replaced. So it actually has a shorter memory, so it actually doesn't remember the information that I need. So in order to do that, I will actually need to save the information in the database or continuously update the variables. So that within my accommodation agent, it will remember these information, right? Again, this is just a demo. That's why I didn't really add it in, but this is one thing that can be improved. And of course, as you can see, like the voice can be optimized, of course, because it's still using numbered list, and when it's returning the information to me, it sounds a little bit off, right? Because again, we could even though we've been optimizing for voice using this prompt, it's still not that great at picking up all these instructions. I could have used it much more detailed, like um, of course, if I know that it's only for voice, I would have written this whole instructions a little bit differently. But because I wanted to show you both text and voice, so that's why I did this kind of balanced approach. But if it's just voice, I would have like changed a few things. For example, in the conversation examples, so it makes it more friendly to hear the exact details of the time and the checkout dates and the checking dates. But hopefully, this is just to show you guys, even with 3 blocks, you can do so much already without actually building the entire workflow. That's like a whole different blocks. Because if you remember, in voice AI before this, you would need to build like a pretty detailed workflow to get a working prototype working. But now with 3 blocks, 3 agent blocks, a small agent network can already do so much, from searching, flight information and actually saving all this information within a database, right? So hopefully this gives you the power of the AI agent. My final thoughts of this AI agent step is it's really good at dynamic rendering. It's really good at quick being able to produce a prototype or being to produce a demo really, really quickly. POC really, really fast. It allows you to build things much faster. And if you're a beginner, they give you so many templates to actually work with within the community template. So you can just start with the template and then build upon the instructions prompt, right? And you have so many use cases, or at least common use cases, that you can already get started building with these. Third is that with this agent network, it can really produce an entire workflow that's able to do multiple things with a minimum number of blocks. So it actually saves you so much time and effort in building these working AI agents. So hopefully, but the disadvantage is that it's shorter memory, and also you will need to design the instructions really, really carefully if you want this to be ready for production. So hopefully this has helped you guys to kind of know what the AI agent step can do And I'm really curious to see what you guys have been building. So let me know in the comments if you've been trying to do with the agent step. Let me know what you think about it, how it can be used for the best use cases, etc. And I'm still like testing this, by the way. So I think at this point, everyone is still testing it to see when it's best useful. So yeah, just get experimental with it. Let me know if you find anything interesting. And if you enjoy this type of content, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one.